seems like you're saying before about real people relate to real music, and it seems like there is something in between that's keeping those two apart at a time, you know, on certain structural levels.
Yeah.
Why would you consider that to be a just cause? If it's going to connect to real people, then surely that's going to be, it's going to end up being a commodity at a certain level.
Yeah.
Real people connect to real music.
Yeah.
Real artists connect to real people.
Yeah.
Buy-in, you know, it's long-term investment.
Well, because, like you say, real music connects to real people, but real music and real people connect in real time. And real time isn't 2 EPs and an album in a year, which I did last year, and I did it begrudgingly, you know? Like, I look at someone like Adele, she's had 2 albums of her career, and everyone praises Adele, and everyone talks about Adele and wants and find me the next Adele, but then they get an artist that can be, Adele is great because she's Adele, and she has people around her that allow her to be Adele. She's not great because someone said, get me the next Adele, and we're gonna make her this, and in a year we're gonna do this, do that, do that. They let it be what it was gonna be, you know? Whereas everything now is about imitation and imitating success instead of creating success. And when you imitate success, you're always gonna come second place because you're imitating it, you know? An imitation of first is second, an imitation of second is third, an imitation of third is fourth, and so on and so forth. And I think what's happening now is there's a lot of people in the music industry that, one, are whatless, but most of all, I think have no real passion or connection to what they're marketing, you know? Because by definition they can't, you know? For you to be able to market something, you have to detach yourself from it and see it as a separate entity on itself. But in that detachment, you now detach yourself from understanding and appreciating it for what it is. Therefore, when you go to market it or promote it, you're not going to necessarily do it justice, because you can't get it, you don't understand it, because you have made that detachment. And I think the music industry is just a victim of itself. And I think, to be fair, where we are it was inevitable. It was always going to get like that, because people, when you see its success, instinctively, you know, you think, okay, that's the formula for success, let's do it again. But then that's not real then, because like I said, it's an imitation of something, and then that becomes the gap between music and people, because people can sense when it's not real. And I think for the music industry, even though it may be obvious to us, when you're dealing with millions, well billions really, actually, billions of a billion pounds industry, the money and the numbers are a lot more dense than, you know, the reality of what's obvious to us, because we don't have to run the companies, we don't have to run the labels, we don't have the pressure of hitting the deadlines, we don't have the pressure of hitting the numbers. So as far as they're concerned, they're like, okay, cool, as long as I do just enough, as long as I just hit the numbers, it's cool. Whereas for us, like I say, we don't have the pressure of that. So of course we're going to be, you know, advocates for time and creativity and love and passion, you know? And I know it may seem like I contradict myself, I'm not. What I'm saying is that I appreciate and understand what record labels do, but I also appreciate and understand and accept, and they have to accept, that they're shooting themselves in the foot. That's the reality of it. And I think as artists, sometimes we're shooting ourselves in the foot by expecting an industry that is not, you know, for us by us, to be for us by us, because it's not, you know, it's not created by musicians, and it's not created for musicians. It's created by executives for executives, you know? It's created for people that want to make money to make money. And so I think that's the simple, you know, that's the simple matter, you know? It's money that's getting in between real music and real people.
I want to pick you up on social media. I'm not a strong advocate for it, for artists. You know, it seems like at a point, it's like that whole top-down approach of, you know, get things out fast. Seems like people are doing it with videos. You know, you just stated now that the video that you guys are working on, it's been in process for 3 months.
Yeah.
You know, and the concept, I know you've spoken about it, you know, the concept sounds intriguing.
Yeah.
You know, the YouTube, the Twitter, the Facebook, the live sessions, the, you know, being seen at these places. It seems like the artists are now imitating some of those pressures from the top to like, okay, you got to be seen to be doing this now. You got to have this at this time, and you have to tweak this, because half of the tweets don't seem to be anything about music anymore. And as an artist, it doesn't seem to be anything about pushing things forward. It's almost like, you know, Sam and I used to talk and say, you know, what's the currency of a retweet? You know, and I don't know, how do you see it though? Because it seems like now social media is another barrier, because artists are now trying to, it's perception management to an extent.
Do you know what? I wrote an article called "The Revolution Will Not Be Twitterized." I wrote it end of last year, and I've just been editing it so many times, and it's gonna come out soon. But
so where's it gonna come out?
Soon.
No, where?
Oh, where? At the moment, I'm talking with the the New Statesman.
Right.
Sorry. But for me, I think it's quite, when we talk about music and the music industry, it's quite a deep issue, because no industry is standalone. You know, the music industry is connected to film, you know, film's connected to mass media is obviously connected to journalism. So it's a big, you know, it's a big thing. And like you say, I think social media is about perception, but I don't think that it's an anomaly or an exception, because we also, when we move away from Twitter and Facebook and, you know, them kind of things, we live a life about perception. A perfect example is you'll have man them that work in curries but are willing to get themselves in debt on finance and credit to look like they're successful. And I think that's what's the problem now. People want success instead of being success, you know, and they want to look successful rather than being successful. Now, for me, if you're a man that's running, I don't know, a corner shop or a barber shop, and you've been able to, and that was your dream, and you've been able to, by hook or by crook, keep that afloat for 10 years. As far as most people are concerned, they will look at that as unsuccessful, because it doesn't look like success, it looks like struggle. Whereas, if you are to walk around with a Gucci belt on, Armani jeans, Jordans, and you're driving a smart car or an Audi A3 or whatever is, you know, the standard in thing, you think people think you're successful. If anything, it's like you're dumbing yourself down for other people. You be greater than that. Be greater than an Audi A3. Get greater than a Gucci belt, you know? Start from scratch, but build your own kingdom. Don't build the same kingdom that everyone else has built, that is only existing on the basis of the kingdom you're serving, you know? Like, that Gucci belt, that Audi, that's not doing nothing for you, that's doing something for Gucci, that's doing something for Audi, you know? And Twitter is the same thing. Like, it's an extension, isn't it? Almost, it's just an extension of society in real terms. We go on there, we say what we think people want us to say. Our humour and our banter is based on what we think people want us to say, you know? And I understand and appreciate it, because we all do it, we're all humans, we all want to be accepted. But sometimes the cost of acceptance is success. And I think it's a dangerous thing to attribute acceptance to success, because Malcolm was never accepted, you know, but he was successful. Again, you look at Bob Marley, it was his 7th album where he was successful, and his first one, Catch a Fire, they thought was dead. Same as Nick Drake, you know? But what then made them accepted was their success. But they, like I say, the reason why they were able to be successful was because their aim wasn't to be accepted, you know? It's, again, Ed is a perfect example of it again. Like last night, he's performing on the Grammys, and I find it hilarious because, you know, only 3 or 4 years ago, it was the same guy that the same industry looked straight over, you know. And I don't think I think it's a sad affair that it is his acceptance though to most people that people will deem him successful. Because if he wasn't on the Grammys and he wasn't doing the things he'd done in the last few years, a large majority of people wouldn't have the views that they have of him now.
Yeah.
Even when he signed to Atlantic, there were people I was talking to inside the music industry that were like, oh yeah, it's not gonna blow, like he's been around for ages. A few months later, they're the same people gassing up Ed Sheeran. And for me, like I say, I feel like we're in a day and an age of acceptance and success being in the same pot, and they're not. And that only a small minority of people benefit from that. And that minority of people are the people that can provide the materials for acceptance. Like I say, the Audi, you know, like I say, the Gucci belt, the Jordans, the clothes, you know, that people kill themselves over getting for acceptance.
It's the aspirant group, which is really like, okay, if you are successful, you have a BMW, you live in Chelsea.
Yeah.
And that's where the marketing is. Like, only upon having that.
Aspire to have, not aspire to be.
Yeah.
And that's the difference.
It's the scales the wrong way around for a lot of people.
I think people like Richard Branson, for example, people will say, oh yeah, he's great, like he's got his boats and he's got his islands and he's got his spaceships. But Richard Branson was already successful when he was just working in a record shop. Why? Because he was willing to make the sacrifices that he did to be successful, yeah? Not to have things that made him look successful. Those things became a byproduct of him actually succeeding. Whereas now people are like, nah, dead that, forget the long ass journey of being successful. What I'm gonna do is look successful, because that's enough. I can get the accolades and the acceptance that looking successful brings, but what you can't get is the growth that success brings. And I think that's what social media's just reinforcing, that, you know, you can buy followers, you can buy YouTube, you can look successful, but at the end of the day, like, that's not buying you a house. That's not, people aren't buying your music. That's not getting you on a tour. That's not getting you around gigging and connecting with people. And it is dangerous, especially when you're in a major label, because there's a lot of that stuff going on and artists don't even realise it. And I think for me, that was what was a blessing about stepping outside of Ireland. Is now, as far as I'm concerned, when the material's ready, I'm hitting every single platform possible. Not every single social platform, every single venue platform. Anywhere there's people, that is what, like, you will not connect with the people if you allow yourself not to connect with them. If you go to a venue, get on stage and sing your songs, you're going to connect with them. It's simple. But like I say, what's happening is people have created the middleman. The industry make you think you can't make that connection without them.
That's,
you know?
Not to cut you off, I think the middleman are eating increasingly well in it. Like, and it's almost like, okay, well, you can't get on this platform if you don't have the PR. Yeah. Or if you don't have the plug.
Dead that, man.
And it's like, and that's what all the allocations of resources is going to. And and it's interesting because it's like, you know, professional suits have stood in the way of you know, the artists, and you know. And
that's what for me, that's what social media is. I'm not saying that they necessarily created it for that, but that's what it's become, another middleman. Them basically saying, because when Twitter weren't there, musicians weren't less successful, we were more successful.
Exactly.
And then someone has invented a problem to invent a product. You know, there was no problem before with social media.
It wasn't problem recognition.
Yeah.
It was, we're going to create this, and then it's going to...
And then it's going to create a problem. If we create Twitter, we create a problem. And Twitter is the antidote to that problem.
I need more followers now.
Yeah.
More retweets.
But why? Again, it's not real. And when you take a step back, for so long you think, because again, when I was at the label, you're so focused on online, constantly checking your Twitter, constantly having online meetings, data meetings, it means nothing at all. You know, there are still people that run cottage industries that go around hitting stages, performing, selling their CDs after, and it keeps the cycle going. But what that does is that leaves no space for a record label, you know. And like I say, I think what's happening now is there's just more and more middlemen, and even with Twitter, it's like, okay, let's hire someone to run your Twitter for you, and then let's hire someone to run your Facebook for you, and then we need someone to coordinate the person that is running your Twitter for you, and then they need a head of department.
It makes it's almost makes it more bureaucratic.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like it can't be just simple. Like,
yeah.
It's more late. It's even though I think the perception when I talk to artists who are coming up, they perceive that, you know, these are the tools that get us closer to our fans. But really, it seems like when you look in a wide context of things, if someone sends me a random tweet with their music, I didn't ask for that. Yeah. I'm not actually looking for that. You're in a way alienating me from ever wanting to listen to your music, because day on day I'm not a DJ. You know, so I'm not going to be looking to listen to it. But if I hear your music in the natural platforms that I've been listening to,
exactly.
I'll go out, you maybe drive and hear a song, you'll be like, okay,
and plus,
you perform.
When you look at bigger artists, you look at some, and I'm saying these names because they're the biggest names I can think of. It's like people like Adele, Justin Bieber, Ed Sheeran, blah 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 blah. They don't use Twitter as much as what your mid-section artists will. Why? Because when you get to that stage, they don't want to see your tweets. They want to see you perform. That's it. And that's the reality of it. That all people want is to hear music and connect with music. They want to get your records and they want to watch you perform. All the stuff in between, like I say, it's a problem that's created to create a product for someone. It's invented. It's not. It's an illusion, because you can bypass it. Because when your success bypasses it. Well, as far as the industry is concerned, once you're successful, you don't need to use Twitter. Yet they will tell you, you need to use Twitter to be successful. You need to use Twitter to connect to your fans. No, what you need to do is get up, pick up your instrument, and be willing to hit every stage you can. And I think that was one of the biggest frustrations, is when you're on a major label, they want to spend so much of their money on PR schemes and marketing ideas, instead of just getting you out there touring, getting you out there playing music, you know?